Disneyworld Land employees, what is the most bizarre thing you've seen at work? 05 Disney World College program former cast member here. I suppose the most bizarre things were what the guests didn't see. A man is found dead from an apparent suicide in his hotel room. The room's windows and entrance are immediately concealed by those, pardon our dust, renovation plyboards as costume characters. Cast members have an impromptu meet and greet, diverting attention away from the room as police arrive to process the scene. The lobby of the Grand Polynesian Hotel features a rather elaborate waterfall foliage atrium where a poisonous snake is found. In the utmost efficiency, dressed as janitors, animal control has captured the snake within a 15-minute window while the guests were once again distracted, this time by fire jugglers. Disney's on top of crap. Geez. Disneyland, 1997. Toontown headroom. A family attacked a Pluto. Pushed her into the fountain. I didn't actually see the attack. Just got to deal with the aftermath backstage. I got to dry all of Pluto's costume and clean the head. Later Pluto told me the family was mad that she had to take her break after they had waited to get a picture. I think Pluto either broke her arm or her leg. I can't remember. The family was arrested. The kids spent the rest of their vacation in the slammer. I worked there 1993 to 1997. One day I was walking to the cast member bank to cash my paycheck. The bank is behind the bank on Main Street, and the gate to go on stage is a little further down. As I walked up, the gate slammed open, and Donald Duck came stomping through, followed by Minnie and several other characters. Donald yanked his head off, threw it on the ground, and screamed, "Stupid kid," kicked me in the balls. Donald was played by a 4 feet 4 inches man. Seeing an enraged little person in half a duck suit was one of the funniest things I have ever seen. I couldn't laugh, or he'd kick me in the balls. I feel very, very bad for characters who get that, and I've read tales of adults molesting female characters or ball kicking male ones. I'd pay good money to watch a guy who nut checked a character get 86'd. I drove the truck at Kilimanjaro Safaris at Animal Kingdom, one of the Disney World parks. If you're not familiar, I drove 40 guests at a time through a wildlife reserve with no fences. Most of the animals can wander right onto the road, blocking your path. Also, there are no tracks. You're really responsible for driving the truck, really responsible for the guest safety, and really responsible for not running over a rhino. Or, more realistically, not getting run over by a rhino. The animals are all real. Most of the guests assume that they're animatronic, but they're not. There are natural, well, man-made, but natural looking barriers between predator and prey, so you're not going to see a lion pounce on a zebra. But that doesn't mean the animals can't surprise you. Lots of animals having sex. Mid-tour. Usually I would drive right past it without comment. Adults might snicker, but I could distract the kids by pointing out facts about other animals in the vicinity. But one day I'm driving and a rhino decides to take a nap in the road right in front of us. That means all trucks stop where they are until the rhino moves, because you're not allowed to go off-road. We were stuck out there for more than an hour, in a downpour. I know maybe 8 facts about each animal, so I've depleted my entire reservoir of facts within 30 minutes. The rest of it was all improv, trying to keep 40 high-paying strangers entertained in an open-air truck that isn't moving in a rainstorm for an hour. Just as I'm completely racking my brain for material, 2 zebras start humping. A little girl screams, "What are they doing?" I immediately reply, "Oh, that's a game called Leap Zebra, like leapfrog, but with more stripes." This particular zebra seems to be very bad at it. The adults were all busting up laughing. It seriously eased the tension. I was once behind a mother and young daughter on that trip as we passed an elephant. The little girl blurted out to her mom, "Look, that elephant has 5 legs." Can confirm, that elephant's erection was the size of his leg. I was a sweeper in Disneyland back in the early 1980s. We would get assigned an area and you would just circle through it. I was working Tomorrowland near the monorail station, which went to the Disneyland Hotel across the street. I saw a nice looking woman there who would strike up a conversation with a man, and then they would go get on the monorail. An hour later she would be back and strike up a conversation with another man, and off they would go. I suppose she made a pretty good living finding lonely guys to entertain in her own magical way. And that, boys and girls, was a Disneyland H. not an employee, but while riding Pirates of the Caribbean a few years ago, a lady in our boat pulled out a bag and dumped the contents into the water. She was crying and sort of laughing at the same time. Come to find out, she had dumped her husband's ashes in the water as his final resting place. She was caught on camera and got in trouble, but it couldn't be undone. Both creepy and cool at the same time. You get banned for life for that, and the ashes get cleaned up, or the water gets dumped. If you respect your loved one's remains, do not do this. When I worked third shift at one of the vacation club hotels, one of my responsibilities was delivering the express checkout statements at 3 AM. One night as I was walking from building to building, I turned a corner and came face to face with a full-grown Florida panther. I backed away at top speed, shut myself behind the closest door and waited a few moments before resuming my rounds. And people used to crap in the holes on the mini golf course. I worked at the front desk of one of the Disneyland resort hotels. A lady, followed by another lady with like an 11-year-old kid, walks up and asks if there is a place that people leave messages for their family if they are separated. I said, not really, and inquired more into the situation. Apparently the first lady was helping the other lady, who didn't speak good English, and her kid. The lady and her kid were in line for Indiana Jones when the father said he was going to the restroom, but never returned. They later went to the car, and the car was gone. They were hoping he left a message for them somewhere. Me and the lady, while talking, realized he left them, probably for good. The father was probably thinking, at least he left them at Disneyland. I spoke to my manager later about it, and apparently this happens ever so often. A father decides to leave his family, and thinks if it's at Disneyland it softens the blow. Ruins Disneyland for the family if you ask me. Ultimate douchebaggery. I worked rides at Disneyworld in college in 2010, and oftentimes there would be private parties that would rent out sections of the park. A few high schools rented out the area I worked for graduation parties. On our rotation between positions on the ride, we would have one that was a rover, but everyone casually referred to it as Sex Patrol. Our job was to wander around in the dark corners of the park and make sure no frisky high schoolers were doing dirty deeds out of the view of everyone else. I took that rotation and walked around the kids and their buffet with live band. I wandered into the playground in Animal Kingdom's Disneyland USA to make sure nobody was in the off-limit areas when I turned a corner and found two kids. I just saw the back of a boy with his pants around his ankles and a girl on her knees going to town on him. I freeze, in shock that I actually found something on the joke of a sex patrol. The girl looks over and we make eye contact and she freezes with the "oh crap, I got caught sucking a dong" face. I back out of the room and go and tell one of their chaperones. I'm not sure how it was handled, but I'm sure he had a magical visit to Disney World. TL. Doctor caught a girl showing a guy a whole new world in the back of her throat. I did the college program from May 2012 till May 2013 and worked attractions in Tomorrowland. People would do a lot of dumb stuff. But the most bizarre was when I was working at Space Mountain. I was on rotation in a position called Mountain 3. Basically, I stood by the handicap entry to the ride and helped people get on and took wheelchairs to the exit. Anyway, it was middle of summer and really busy when a lady wearing a big Disney hoodie was going through the normal line. I thought it was a little weird to wear a jacket during the summer, but whatever. She then gets to restraint, which is the last checkpoint before the ride begins. At restraint, they just check your lap bars and then press a green button. While there, the cast members hear a whine coming from the lady's jacket and found that she was trying to smuggle her infant daughter on the ride. So he calls me over because I have a radio and we kick her off the ride. Call our managers and security. She ended up getting blacklisted from Disney World. Sorry if there are any typos. I'm on my cell phone. I just don't understand people like this. The infant won't remember the ride. If you really wanted to go to Disney, have someone watch the kids at home. I'm seasonal at Epcot after doing the Disney College program. I work in 5 different stores in the Southeast Future World. One night, I was working at Club Cool and I'm just watching the guests, making sure no one is doing anything stupid. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a Brazilian guy, go figure, pull down his daughter pants and let her pee on our floor. Thank goodness our floor is already disgusting due to people spilling the free soda we have there. Oh yeah, don't get me started on summer season with the tour groups. Those chanting Brazilians. Man, I am Brazilian and I hate Brazilians visiting Orlando. I'm a current cast member at WDW. About 2 months ago I had to yell at a guy, about 60 something, because he was A, peeing on what used to be a ride path, now a backstage area. B, that night was the first night of a private event. C, there were people nearby but no one noticed. The bathroom is really close. Please ask us where it is. Please don't just pee in public at Disneyworld. Please don't yell at me while you do it, or curse at me. Thank you. I was 19 years old when I worked for Disneyworld, and my heart still skipped a beat when I saw Goofy take off his head for the first time. Yes, I know that Goofy is just a guy in a costume. Of course I do. I'm a grown man. And yet, actually seeing it, I would equate it to seeing a human take off their own head and revealing that there's a smaller human inside working all of their joints for them. I used to work in the Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique as a fairy godmother in training, FGIT from here on out, and one time we had a very Christian family come in and have their daughter done up by a friend of mine, in the chair next to me. We like to tell the girls stories about the real princesses coming in to get their hair done every morning, all of us having sleepovers, using jellyfish jelly, from Ariel, of course, to style their hair, that we're 200 plus years old. Since to be a bona fide fairy godmother you have to be 1000, etc. Every story my poor friend told this little girl, she would scrunch her face up and would say things like that's not true and stop saying fibs. It's adorable when the girls react so cute and don't believe it at first, so we're all laughing. And my friend tops it off with the fact that she's 230 years old, and the girl nearly stands up in the dang chair and screams at the top of her lungs, "Liars, go to heck." The one time OP really truly is a FGIT. I knew a guy who was in charge of equipment safety, checking all rides, and pretty much making sure no one will die on a ride. I didn't know his exact title. His wife was the manager of the restaurant I worked at the time. One day he came in and was very tense and out of his place. I asked what was wrong and he told me he was working on Tower of Terror and realized one of the cars was one bad bolt and nut away from disaster. He told me if the ride went on for another 3-4 turns the car could have failed. I don't know how much of what he told me was exaggerated or whatnot, but it was definitely freaky to hear. I also have a buddy that works cleanup now and tells me surprisingly many people throw the ashes of loved ones from rides and or in the water. He said it sucks because ultimately they identify every time that happens and those ashes end up getting swept up and thrown in the trash. The thing about the ashes has been confirmed by posters on Reddit and elsewhere. Not only are they considered hazmat, and if you tell them you did it they'll shut the ride down and clean, but they likely get cleaned up in a day or two anyway. Haunted Mansion has lots of Fuller's earth dust, but not in any way you can really easily throw ashes. I'm on mobile, but when you have the time go to YouTube and search for Confessions of a Disney Employee by Swoozie. It's a 3, maybe 4-part series that contains all the details you might be looking for. They're a lot tamer than you think. One of them is basically about the guy staying late at work and sneaking into a closed park party. I worked Pirates of the Caribbean Disneyland 2008 to 2009. Every younger couple tries to get away with messing around on the boats during non-peak hours. There are seriously cameras everywhere. We caught this chick blowing her BF in the back. Instead of normally yelling at them over the intercom, we let him finish. As she leaned over to spit it out of the boat, my co-worker got on with the loudest knot in the water. I hope they're married by now. TLDR. Always Captain Jack Swallow. That must have been the most awkward swallow ever. Not one of the theme parks, but I used to work at the Disney Soda Fountain in Hollywood next to the El Capitan Theater. All I have to say is that the hardcore Disney fans are hardcore. I'm talking one pin trader punching another over cuts in line, someone bringing a taser to the next one. Probably the best experience working there was meeting Stan Lee the morning the Avengers opened. We had served breakfast for those seeing the midnight and 4 AM showings and he was there and got a set of the Avengers movie pins and I was introduced, half awake, eating a hot fudge sundae for breakfast because why the heck not, and one of my bosses just brings him over and introduces me. My butt also touched Johnny Depp's butt because of that job. Not too bad. Khaleesi of Kitties. You have an awesome name and your butt touched Johnny Depp's butt. An upvote from Mayor. Worked at a character dining restaurant. Lots of princesses and chipmunks walking around while guests ate at the buffet. One summer, was backstage behind the hotel restaurant and was walking to our designated cast cafe to eat. I guess this Snow White was very warm and very hungry because she was walking around outside in just dolphin shorts and a very tight tank top. She was obviously wearing this under her dress. Thing is, she can take off the dress, but the makeup, wig and collar was still in effect. I always thought people who got all hot in the butt for princesses were weird, but now I fully understood. I was on the phone with my then girlfriend when I saw her and literally stopped talking, stopped walking and just sat slack-jawed. She saw me, said hi to me in my silly waiter outfit, which looked the outfit for the best man at a very gay wedding. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I don't even think I replied. I think it was my first and only boner at work. TLDR. Saw Snow White in tight shorts and a tank top. Woke up sleepy. My mom used to be a costumer for Disneyworld and she told us a story that during the 20th or 25th anniversary she was in the park and saw a man walking around shirtless with the map of the Magic Kingdom tattooed across his entire back. I feel bad for them as they changed the map layout now with a new section of Magic Kingdom, north from the entrance. Cousin's old theater teacher used to be Peter Pan. They were doing a character breakfast and a couple had a baby wrapped up in a blanket. They ask if they can pose with the baby and Peter Pan. The teacher goes up to take the picture. The baby is a doll. They brought a doll to Disney and were those whack job kind of people who treated it like a human. The teacher just had to play along as if it were a real kid. There was a couple who were semi-regular customers at an old restaurant job of mine, and the wife would do something like this. She'd have a high chair or booster seat set up, and have a slice of pizza and a drink set out for a teddy bear. She's baby talk the bear and cut up the pizza for it and everything. It was a little odd, but she also looked like the saddest woman in the universe. Not an employee, sorry, but I once saw a man get arrested for being publicly intoxicated at the Aerosmith roller coaster in Disney World. He had his like 7-year-old daughter with him and it was really sad. They had to pin him to the ground and everything. As said before, Disney is really on top of their crap. I have worked there in 2011 and all I can say is, they are not really kind to their employees. A friend of mine got fired for saving a child from being ran over in one of the parades. Apart from that, I've heard that people who manage the on-ride cameras see countless boobs. I worked as a custodian there for about a year when I was 18 in 2008. Frick, has it been that long? A couple things happened to me while working there. Once while sweeping the line for the Finding Nemo subs and I noticed this Asian family secretly taking pictures of me and recording me on video. So when I confronted them about it I gathered from their broken English that their daughter thought I was attractive so they started taking pictures. I had a good laugh about that and took a picture with her as well. Another time I was sweeping the area for New Orleans Square and was behind the Haunted Mansion in an area where guests don't go and see this woman with her daughter. The daughter was squatting and pee all over the dang place and when I stumbled across them I just said frick left and came back with a mop. Luckily I don't think they understood English. Being a custodian wasn't exactly glamorous but it was the best job I ever had. Keeping places sanitary is a pretty dang important job. I hope you were paid decently. The two best stories I have heard from former Disneyland employees. 1. A security guard that had to escort 3 teen girls from the park for flashing the camera, topless. 2. The reindeer at the barbecue place got loose and one got into the park. The employees were running through Disneyland chasing a live reindeer. I used to work on Main Street at Disneyland in one of the cafes. On my first day, I noticed that there were flies hovering around on the pastries and the glass display cases at the counter and told my supervisor. She then tells me that they turned off the lights in that particular case so customers wouldn't be able to see the flies, and we could continue selling them. That is horrible. John Taffer would scream at you guys. I drove the boats on the Seven Seas Lagoon, lake outside the Magic Kingdom, for my internship. I had a lady get physically sick on my cruiser while on our way from the campgrounds to the MK. So we shut down at the dock. Thank God I got taken off my shift. No cleanup. So I thought, I'd take the lady to the first aid station under the train station and take my 15 minutes. On my way out, this lady is at our assignment station with my manager. Turns out she was not staying at a Disney resort, so I am assigned to the van to drive her to her resort off-site. I spent the next 20 minutes getting directions fed to me from my heavy accented Puerto Rican co-cast member while this lady is periodically puking into the bag. Interesting night, but watercraft assignment for college interns was usually interesting like that. I worked in stores at Disneyland just out of high school. One day while stocking the shelves in the part of the store where Star Tours let you out into, I see what looks like mud tracked around the store. I'm like, WTF, where did that come from? When I see and then smell what looks like a somewhat intact soft turd on the ground, I immediately run to tell someone to call custodial, then run back to try and block people from walking all over it, but by then it was too late. It had been smeared all over. The wait for custodial felt like forever since I was trying so hard not to gag at the smell and not laugh at the guests who walk through the crap stains and exclaim loudly, "Ugh, what is that smell?" I just couldn't figure out how someone managed to crap on the floor in the middle of the store without anyone noticing. This was about 15-16 years ago now, but when talking on headsets, you're supposed to use different codes for things. For example, a medical situation was usually a balloon for blood. I think it was, "There's a balloon in the parking lot." So, you can imagine my surprise when we get a call and saying we have a code poo. Piglet is on the loose. Like, what? Turns out some crying toddler-aged kid was using the sandbox as his public bathroom, and when someone approached him, he just ran away. Not employee, but I was in Disneyworld with my wife like 2 years ago. At the beginning of the park we got on the old time train thing that takes you around the whole thing. While we were waiting we met a lady who started telling us about the whole train and where it goes and the history of it, and I thought she was a worker, but it turns out that she just loves the train and rides it all day. Like, she really loved that train. Who the heck pays the admission just to ride that train? You would be surprised by the Disney maniacs. I got to know a man who would come and take pictures from the TTC of the Magic Kingdom, but never go into the park itself. TTC is short for Ticket and Transportation Center. That is where the parking lot shuffles to, and you chose to take the monorail or the ferry boat across. No one's going to see this now, but I worked at the Plaza Ice Cream Parlor on Main Street. On Christmas Day Magic Kingdom was packed, obviously. The fireworks were about to start and our shop was pretty much empty because everyone was more interested in getting a spot for the fireworks and all. A couple groups are milling about, pretending to be looking at the menu or discussing what to buy, not because they were actually going to buy things, but because they were looking for a less crowded spot to hang around in. We kind of turned a blind eye to it because, whatever, they're not bothering anyone right now, not blocking anything, etc. I was on register chatting with some of my co-workers when in storms this man in a rage. He starts screaming at all us, demanding to see our manager right now. We all stop and stare, having no idea what's going on or what's happening. Most of us had just clocked in about an hour ago, so anyone who might have been in earlier and known what this man wanted has left for the night. Since we all assumed he was an earlier customer come to flip out on something someone did earlier. Turns out, not the case. He starts screaming at us that it's too crowded. He can't see the castle very well. He doesn't have a good spot for the fireworks, etc. etc. Just really letting it go. At us. He ends his rant with, "Emmy and my family are religious and this is unfair." He then turns around and storms right back out, leaving a totally silent, stunned ice cream parlor in his wake. None of us knew what to do, and then the "what the frick was that" chatter broke out. I'm still not sure what he expected the manager of an ice cream parlor to do about his situation. TLDR, man not religious enough to not be at Disney on Christmas, but religious enough to use it as an excuse to try and get his way. How dare other people have the same idea as Emmy and show up to the same place at the same time, blocking my view? This is absurd. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.